Today I want to talk a little bit more about poor image navigation. We've been looking through a number of different sites and discussing some of the different issues with their image navigation, those galleries that you go into and you click through different photos. And really the main purpose and the concern that we have is let's not let bad design get in the way of viewing good content. So what we're going to do today is look at the National Geographic site. And National Geographic is obviously, really well known as a magazine, at least for great photography, good photojournalists, good research. But really, people really like to look at the photos in these sites. And if you're a photojournalist and you shoot for National Geographic, it's a big deal. So we're going to look at how they handle their photos. So right off the bat here, I'm going to scroll down a bit to see their photography. You can see that their navigation is down here, this next button, 1 of 5. That's a fairly typical place for people to be putting them, below the image or next to the image or atop. So I'm just going to hit this this next button here. And you can see what happened there. What instantly happened was the page actually had to scroll to the top. So I'm going to scroll down. And there are my next and previous buttons again. Now, I actually have a big problem with this. What I call this type of navigation is called the moving navigation. And what I mean by that is if you scroll down and you try to click on this navigation, you go to the next image, your cursor right here, your cursor can no longer press on that next navigation. In fact, relative to where you are, the navigation has moved down. So what I actually also call this is called the 4 steps to next image form of navigation. And those steps are this. So 1, eye moves down. 2, your mouse moves. 3, click. And 4, your eyes move back to the content. In this case, we have to scroll and then your eyes move back to the content. This is, for me, equivalent to something like you being in your car and having a button on your stereo or your indicator, and you click on that button, and every time you click that button, it actually moves to a different location. And, you're focused on the road, and you have to go track down where that new button location is. I mean, you wouldn't imagine anyone in the real world designing a type of navigation like that. And the same's, too for the web. We're talking about efficiency through navigating through different images and different content, and this really is not an efficient way. Now, right now I have a screen resolution. I'm viewing this at 1280 by 800. I typically have a much higher screen resolution when I'm not doing a podcast, but even then, it doesn't scroll, but the navigation moves because the navigation is mounted to the bottom right-hand corner of this image. As the dimensions of this image change, so too does the navigation placement. And there's lots of popular gallery sites, even some Ajax implemented or JavaScript implemented galleries that have this navigation mounted relative to the dimensions of a photograph, and it's really a bad idea for good image navigation. Now, some people might argue, hey, look, you're in the the news section of this National Geographic site. So I'm going to flip over to the photography section here. So I have this page already loaded. Again, I'm going to scroll down a bit. Now, for me, people, again, come to National Geographic because of their reputation for great photography. And right off the bat, I think that this defined space for a photograph is way too small for a place like National Geographic. Again, they have to understand their users and present material in a way that's pleasing to their users and that understands how users use their content. Now, this is an example of them not completely understanding it. It's a very small image. Now, they've placed the navigation up here so that at least it's not changing relative to the dimensions of the actual photograph, which is a great improvement. But again, for me, this size is too small. But they offer this great enlarge button. So I'm going to click this, scroll down a bit. Isn't that much better? I mean, it's a nice big photograph. It's inviting. It puts the end user closer to the visual content. Again, you want to display visual content if you're an architect, if you're a photographer, if you're a designer, even if you're selling a big, beautiful house. You want to display your visual content in a nice, large clean way for your end user. And this is a good example of that. Now I'm going to go to the next image. Let's see. Well, there really is no way to get to the next image now. So once I've gone into this way which is really aesthetically pleasing and which I think understands how users use their content better, I have no way of getting to the next photograph. In fact, they force you to use your browser button over here. And so now, not only do I not go to the next photograph, but I come back to the same photograph and I have to use their navigation here or up here in this next setting. So again, that is really bad to make a user, first of all, have to use their browser navigation, not even offer some sort of way of clicking in, enlarging, and clicking onto a next image. I think it shows a lack of understanding of how users or why users are coming to their content. It would take such little effort to put navigation in here where they can simply click through, keep clicking the image and go to a new image, or click the left side of the image and go back, or have a very small arrow here that indicates you can go left and you can go right. It's too bad because this is a perfect example of great visual content, great photography that's being hidden by really poor navigation. So hopefully that's going to be one of the last ones for a little bit that we'll talk about as examples of poor image navigation. I hope to show a couple examples of a good usage of image navigation. I'm sure we're going to have plenty of examples of more poor ones down the line, but for now hopefully we can move on from something like that.